Hello everyone and welcome to another one of these ranking videos, and this has been planned since like June, and we were finally gotten to it because of scheduling issues with everyone involved, which the third person who is supposed to be here is not here. So we have a lineup change. We have Fat, Tommy, and Katza in the call, which you can remember Tommy from the metalcore video and Katza from the metal death video, and Fat is a new one being in one of these. And
Hi.
I am sorry if I am low energy because I went to the ER this morning and has barely got any sleep. So
Okay, I'll pick up your slack.
what a better thing to do after ER is to rank prog metal videos or albums.
Dude, that's like a second year trip.
Yeah. All right. So to give a introduction a little bit, I'm very. It depends on the band for me, but I am pretty much lukewarm to progressive metal. It has to be combined with something, for me to personally like 100% enjoy it. But just plain prog metal just doesn't really do much for me. But some of these have kind of changed my opinion on the genre. I know Fat is a big fan.
Yeah, I would say it's my gateway into more heavy music as a whole was a band like Opeth and Dream Theater Tool, stuff like that.
Tommy, what is your opinion on
Um, Overall, Frog is just kind of like extremely hit or miss to me. Um, like at its best, it's like peak, but I feel like half of it is just kind of mediocre slop.
it? What about you, Katsu?
Um, I like it. It's not my favorite, but like, how do I describe it? Progressive fusion is some of my favorite stuff. Like progressive death metal, I adore so much, but progressive metal in itself is just kinda good, though there are some exceptions.
All right, cool. So without further ado, everyone who's watched the previous videos, I just wave my mouse around, and that's the album we're going to talk about. So first one we're going to talk about is Gojira's Elephant Sauvage. So me personally, this one is my second favorite Gojira album. To start, I'm sorry if I mispronounce stuff because I am kind of retarded. Explosia, which is one of, I think, Gojira's best openers. I think the atmosphere is fantastic, and that is pretty much the theme, or it stays throughout the album. The title track also has one of the best riffs. It sounds like Joe says the N word around the 1 minute and 45 mark. Um, I think it's one of their best songs as well. I love when Joe screams the lines "anger, lies, denial," and also that riff in that section is also baller. And moving on to the axe, the axe is actually the song that got me into this album, because I put this album off for a while, and the axe was actually played in a college class, to demonstrate the production of the vocals in the specific song, which is like doubling of the vocals. Um, I think it also has one of the best choruses in the entire album, and that riff at 255 is pretty baller. Liquid Fire is also a great song, but I don't really have much to say about it. The scream that Joe does around the halfway mark is pretty sick. That section forward is often too, or is awesome too. The Wild Healer, I think it's solid, but I think it's one of my least favorite interludes that Gojira has ever done, personally. God, I'm gonna butcher this. Playing obsolescence. This track grabs you by the
Obsolescence, I think.
yeah. This track grabs you by the throat with the blistering blast beats right out of the gate. I enjoy the song a lot. It's one of my favorites off of it, especially that slower section where there is like this kind of effect on the vocals and the guitar that's going into like a chord progression. Has a pretty mellow outro as well. Mouth of Kala. I really enjoy the slower riff in that verse. in the verse as well as the riff in the middle of the song. The Gift of Guilt, I think the guitar lead is pretty awesome. The riff around the 230 mark is fun. I think it also has one of the best choruses on the album. Pain is a Master has a sick intro. The song has pretty relatable lyrics too. It's about pain and how it can like control your life. Born in Winter, probably the best song on the album, if you ask me. Very beautiful and emotional, and it gives me goosebumps every time. And I also think that song should be longer too. It's only like only like 4 minutes. It barely hits the 4 minute mark. The Fall. I love Joe's growls on this track as well, and I think it's one of their most underrated song. And I'm also gonna go over the bonus tracks because I think a couple of the bonus tracks could possibly just replace a couple tracks off the normal album for me. This Emptiness, yeah, it's great. I love the heavy guitar part in the chorus. In My Last Creation, that second riff, like it could almost be a slam riff, to be honest. I really like the clean guitar tone on this album, and the production is awesome. And this is my second favorite Gojira album. I'd probably put this in S tier.
Pretty much everything you said, I agree with. This is also my second favorite Gojira album. I think Born in Winter is just their best song, period. That song gives me chills, goosebumps every single time. I think vocally, this is probably my favorite album by them. Just like Joe just sounds the best on here with like his like growls and screams and whatnot. But pretty much everything you said, I 100% agree with. Outside of like, I think Liquid Fire is one of the best songs on here, but that's just me. Bonus tracks are excellent as well. They should have just been on the main album. Born in Winter should have been longer. Yeah, very good stuff. I would put this in S tier.
Elephant Sauvage to me is like it's Gojira's densest project, if that makes sense. It's not my favorite. It's like dead in the middle of Gojira's discography to me. But in terms of just like where the most ideas were dumped into, I feel like this is definitely the very top. It's a very dense album. It's an album with zero dead space. Definitely Gojira's like grooviest album in my opinion. There's like so many spots in the album where like you can't stop yourself from moving a little bit. It's like Explosia has a lot of spots like that. Fucking Gift of Guilt has spots like that. Pain is a Master is such a good track. Pain is a Master is my favorite on the album. I think it's criminally underrated. The faster triplet drum picking part in the bridge is like one of my favorite moments in any Gojira song. I'd agree that this is definitely Joe's best vocal performance on any of the Gojira albums. The drumming here is something that I don't hear talked about a lot, but I think this is definitely the best drumming on any of the Gojira albums. Even just like the riffing, each individual riff, I'd say is like separate parts. It's all they all shine super well among the other Gojira albums. But it's like it's an album that leaves zero room, which is both a really good thing and also can kind of drag it down a little bit sometimes. But personally, I'd put this album in a very solid A tier just for being like Gojira's most dense, rich project. I think it's definitely the most unique, and that's why I'd put it in A tier.
I like this album. I like Gojira. Album is just good. I'm gonna agree with Tommy here. It has some of their best drumming. Like Mario in general is such a great drummer, but it just especially shines in this album, and just this album shines in general. This is I think it's my third or second favorite Gojira album. Yeah, interchangeable, great stuff. Love the riffs. Not my favorite vocal work from Joe, but I still like it a lot because he's just a great vocalist. And what else do I gotta say about it? Fall, I'm gonna agree with Air. I don't know what to call you here. You, the fellow. Great song, underrated as hell. Has this really cool atmosphere to it that feels like the end of the world, if that makes sense. I don't know. Just like it lots. Born in Winter, beautiful song. Definitely needs to be longer, like at minimum 5 minutes. Then I think it would be perfect, but still amazing song. Probably my favorite off this. Pain is a Master, also banger. along with Explosia, and that's basically all I gotta say. Great album. I would give this a very light S tier.
Okay, are we all okay with putting this in S then?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right, next round of album is very cool. All right. This is Fear of a Blank Planet by Porcupine Tree. And before we begin, anyone who is watching and is a big Steven Wilson fan, I fully expect you to leave an angry comment. I fully expect that. So here we go. The title track, the verse around around the 3 minute mark is cool. The vocal melody and the riff around the 5 minute mark is pretty cool. My Ashes I thought was just okay, kind of boring. And I don't know. The next track on the album track list, I think the most interesting part of the song is the heavy riff around the 6 minute and 30 mark. After that point, the song gets more engaging. This is a song that you really feel the length to. It goes on forever, and the guitar melody in the last part of the song is pretty cool. Sentimental has a cool atmosphere that it creates, but that's pretty much all I could say about it. Way Out Here picks up around the 4 minute 55 mark with the heavy riff. The first 4 minutes kind of a snooze. Sleep Together, the synth line in the intro is pretty cool. That's all I really have to say about it. Bonus notes that I had, I was recommended this by someone in the server. I initially gave it a 7.5, but I'm probably going to have to lower it to a 6. It's great at what it's supposed to do, but man, this album does not captivate me whatsoever. I think there are cool moments on it, but this isn't like top 5 album of all time, like, to me. Yeah, I just find it kind of it does good things, but those good things just don't captivate me. And so I'd probably put this in. This is my one of 2 C tiers.
I'm on the other side of the spectrum where I actually quite like this album. I don't love it, but I like it a lot. So just right off the bat, Anesthetize, yeah, and Way Out of Here, those are my favorite tracks, just off the bat. I love the atmosphere on both of them, especially Way Out of Here. That's by like a long shot my favorite on the album. Then the title track and Sleep Together are pretty good. I like you mentioned the synth line. I think is probably like it's just really nice. I digs. My Ashes and Sentimental though they're just kind of whatever to me. I think both of them kind of bog the album down for not being memorable at all, really. But yeah, I do. I like the album, but I don't love it. I would go like high B low A probably because Anesthetize and Way Out of Here are like really good in my opinion. Then the other 4 are like range from a solid to just
This is an album. I haven't listened to this one extremely recently, but from what I remember of it, the best way I can describe it is Radiohead and Dream Theater had like a little love child, which sounds really cool. I think you could just drop the Dream Theater parts a lot of the time. I think that the metal parts of this album are easily the worst, and I think the riffing is like borderline unlistenable at some points in the album. Especially some of the riffing in Anesthetize is like, I don't know, it's not good. I think this project would be a lot better if it stuck to being a rock album more than a metal album. I also just think there's a lot of wasted potential here. This is, I mean, obviously you have Steve Wilson, but this is an album that features both Alex Lifeson and Robert Fripp in 2 separate occasions, and both of their guest appearances are just kind of wasted on nothing. Especially Robert Fripp's is just like, Way Out Here could have been way better, I think, if they had utilized him a bit better. My general thoughts for this album is it's just a lot of wasted potential, and I think there are some really good moments. I think My Ashes and Sleep Together are both really, really good songs. But I'd be inclined to agree with Aaron more, is that it's just like there's lots of moments where it shines super bright, but there's also a lot of moments where it's just kind of like whatever. And I feel like it's a lot of wasted potential. And I also feel like some of Steve Wilson's other projects are just way better than this. I don't know why this one gets all of the praise. So I'd probably stick it in like a solid C tier.
Well, I'm kind of a mix of all of you here. I'm fine with Steven Wilson. Like, I think he's a good musician. Kind of going off of what Tommy said there, is he a good guitarist? No. I have heard some of his riffs in his other albums, and they're like atrocious at times. Like, even in his main project, he can write like the occasional good clean riff, like with clean tone, whatever the hell it's called. I'm not a guitarist. Maybe it's okay, but this man has maybe one good electric guitar riff, and that's it. Back to the actual album though, this was fun because like it doesn't feel fully metally, and the metal parts are kind of like, whatever. It's just good. I think my only problem is that it's just like unnecessarily long at times, but like, hey, that's just Steven Wilson. He's just progressive for the sake of progressive most of the time. Fear of a Blank Planet though, really good song. Sleep Together, I also like a lot. Yeah, I also like the atmosphere of just the whole album a lot. Kind of feels like, I don't know, it feels like r/atheism if it was like cool, if that makes sense. But that's about all I have to say.
Where would you put it?
That is like the biggest insult you could ever give to an album.
r/atheism.
Well,
but
Sorry.
I thought of it. I was thinking more of a like it's just like an old man yelling at kids like being on their phone kind of album.
We
That's
haven't
what I got from it.
Okay.
we haven't gone to the r
That's
slash
also
atheist.
true.
We haven't gotten to the r/atheist album yet.
/atheism, but awesome.
Where would you put it, Katsa?
Oh, yeah, I'd give it like a light A.
Alright, since I think I'll settle for B. If
Yeah, I think B works, like low B, because
Yeah,
we
low
have the
B.
PCs. I think that
Very,
works.
very light B.
Yeah, light B. Alright, next album we're gonna go to is there we go. We got the Fat album. Okay. So to start, Ouroboros. I think that tapping riff is just super iconic and instantly recognizable. I think it's also one of their best openers. Toxic Garbage Island is a classic. It's iconic. I also love the messaging in this album and what it's about. Because if you actually read about it, it will piss you off. And I'm gonna upset Fat here a bit. A sight to behold. I was never really a big fan of this song. I feel like this song kind of feels. It feels kind of, I don't know, like it doesn't really fit the album, like that weird like synth line in the beginning. I think the song does pick up a bit with the little riff in the chorus. Overall, past like The Link, I think this is one of my least favorite Gojira songs. It's just nothing super great, to be honest, in my opinion. Yama's Messengers, I very much enjoy the main riff in the song. A solid song. I think it's great. The Silver Chord, I actually really enjoy this interlude. Besides being how simple it is, I think it just sounds kind of melancholic and shit. All the Tears, I think All the Tears. I think is one of their most underrated tracks as well. The main riff is sick. I enjoy Mario's insane blast beats in this song. And as well as the section that starts around 150. Adoration for None. I think the Randy feature is neat. I think he does a pretty good job on that track. The riff around the 115 is pretty sick. But I do think the outro kind of drags slightly. The Art of Dying, this is pretty much one of their magnum opus songs, or one of their best songs overall. I think the tribal intro is pretty awesome. I could literally listen to the ending riff of that song like all day. That riff is just so irritating to me, despite it being pretty simple. Esoteric Surgery, love the main riff on this one too. I thought when he said I have the power to heal yourself, I thought he said I have the power to kill yourself. A pretty solid song overall. Vacuity. I think this is my second favorite Gojira song overall. I just love the groove and every riff in the song. The ending riff in this song, I forget what song. I forget what song from Fortitude that it reminds me of. I think it's. I can't remember at the top of my head. Wolf Down the Earth. I think it's very underrated as well. The main riff is great, and I always appreciate the harmonization Gojira does with the guitar parts. The riff at 240 is just pure sex. The Way of All Flash, the title track. This song has one of the sickest riffs on the album, but it is a goddamn shame that 6 minutes of silence kind of ruins the song for me. kind of a punch in the gut for a closer, but I still think it's a solid song. But I will always skip the 6 minutes of silence. Bonus notes that I have: I think the production is great. I love how the drums sound on this album, especially the snare. Great riffs overall, and the track list is consistent, but it's a wee bit off for me. This is like my fourth. Yeah, this is my fourth favorite Gojira album overall, and that's all I have.
I'm in a bit of an awkward spot because this is my favorite album ever. So just right off the cuff, it's top of best for me. Pretty much agree with everything you say. With my feelings aren't hurt for your opinion. For your opinion of Sight of Behold. It is one of the weaker tracks in my book. If I had to pick like a least favorite, I guess I would say Adoration for None. I just find it the least interesting of the bunch. Randy showing up is cool because I love Randy, but I just find it like, it's alright. It's still a very good song on an incredible album, but it's just the way it is. Art of Dying, that whole song is just ear candy front to back. A point you didn't bring up, but I'm going to, is I love like the little like interludes at the ends and of certain songs like Art of Dying and like Vacuity, I think. Like Esoteric Surgery. There's these like ambient kind of bits that kind of like link the songs together, and I think that's really cool. It's just a damn shame there's like 8 minutes of silence at the end of the title track before like 4 minutes of like warbly garbly nonsense. I think they could have just trimmed that out. I know it's supposed to be representative, like, oh, it's like you're dying and you're going the way of all flesh, and it's like, I don't know. It's cool thematically, but I don't think it was super necessary. That being said, that is like my only issue with the album. The whole thing through is just ear candy front to back with riffs. Ouroboros, Toxic Garbage Island, Wolf Down the Earth, Yama's Messengers, Vacuity. All of those just sound like ball crushing riffs, and I love it. Very good album, straight to top of S in my book.
I really like The Way of All Flesh. It's kind of like on par with L'Enfant Sauvage for me. It's like smack in the middle of the Gojira discography, either third or fourth best. But the strengths of this album is just like L'Enfant Sauvage. It's a very dense album. It's an album with not a ton of breathing room other than the 8 minutes of silence at the end of The Way of All Flesh. But besides that, it's an album with not a ton of breathing room. I think that's done a little better here than in L'Enfant Sauvage. I think individual tracks here shine harder. I think Yama's Messengers is Gojira's most underrated track, period. Ouroboros is really good. Toxic Garbage Island is a classic. Art of Dying, Esoteric Surgery, Vacuity are all great songs. I also like this one because it's a little bit more straightforward than L'Enfant Sauvage, in my opinion. Which isn't necessarily a good or bad thing. It's just generally what I prefer from Gojira as a more straightforward sound. But I don't have a ton to say here. That I didn't say already about L'Enfant Sauvage, or that someone else didn't say. It's a much more like dark, kind of crushing album than L'Enfant Sauvage. I find L'Enfant Sauvage to be kind of uplifting, and I find this one to kind of be crushing, which is the point. But yeah, this is also a very solid A tier in my opinion.
I like this album. I like Gojira. This is my second favorite Gojira album. Has some really, really cool moments and just a really cool atmosphere. I'm a sucker for like interesting lyrics. Like, I don't know how to describe it, but the lyrics in this album, they just kind of like hooked me, and just everything else about it too. Like, not just the lyrics, riffs are great. Like Mario's drumming, of course it's good. He's a good drummer, and then vocals also great. Ouroboros, great song. Alma's Messenger is Toxic Garbage Island. I think that'd be my favorite track off the album. Title track. I'm just a ditto of all of you here. I wish that long silence wasn't there because I can list a few other songs. Well, no, one other song, progressive song. Unnecessary silence at the end. Shout out to progressive metal albums with unnecessary silence at the end of them, with Oogly Moogly at the end of it. But yeah, the album, man. I'd say light S tier, maybe.
All right. So to calculate this, I am torn between because if Tommy was gonna say this was S tier, I would have probably put it in front of Elephant Sauvage, but I would also put it in A tier. Looks like three of us would put it in A tier. So since Fat wants it like here, I think the very top of A would be justifiable. If anyone disagrees, let me know.
That's
I
valid.
hold my peace.
All right, next up we got Animals as Leaders. Cool. Just a spoiler alert. You guys will not. I don't know what you guys think my opinion will be, but I hope it's a surprise. This is Joy of Motion by Animals as Leaders. What's the guitarist's name again, Tommy?
Tosin Abasi.
Yeah, I respect the fuck out of that dude. I think he is talented as shit. So with that out of the way, I just want this type of music or album is normally not my thing, but as we go through the track lists or the tracks, you'll eventually see where I stand with this. Cascade I think is pretty interesting. Cool tapping parts and the riff the riff near the first half of the song. Lippincott, the bass lines are pretty baller. Sick riff in the later half. I think the synth kind of adds some flavor to this track, even though I could see the song without it. Chris Alice or whatever. This one kind of feels like it goes nowhere for half the song, so I think it might be my least favorite. Another Year. This one's alright too. The synths in the last half of the song sound kind of weird. They sound kind of like plastic bottles. Physical Education. Not much to say about this one. Again, the slap bass is pretty sick. Tooth and Claw, pretty sick. I like the harmonies in the middle section of the song. Crescent, solid. Not much to say about it. The future that awaited me, pretty neat. Kind of atmospheric as well. Mexer, whatever. Very cool to hear acoustic bass on the track. It's been a while since I've heard an album with acoustic bass on it. The Woven Web, solid. I think it's a solid track. Mind Spun, solid. Nefella, I think is how you say it. I think it's pretty sick and has nice riffs. Overall, honestly, I think this album is produced pretty spectacularly because there's a lot of like overproduced albums that are like in this style, but obviously not like instrumental. The instrumentation also doesn't sound super robotic like I completely dislike from a lot of modern gent and like deathcore and stuff. I think this album is pretty fun, and I think the no vocals thing was pretty smart because all the instrumentation really pretty much stands out on its own. I would probably put this high B, low A. That's all I have.
I really like this album. That being said, it might be my least favorite Animals as Leaders album. I think it's super solid all the way through. Cascade is a really great opener. It's one of my favorites in addition to The Woven Web. That's the song that I got into the band with. Just saw it in the video. I was like, oh man, this is groovy as hell. So I was like, oh, I'll check out more. Mind Spun is another one I really like. I know you don't really care for Eric Chrysalis, but that's another track I dig. Tooth and Claw is really great too. There's a few tracks I'm just kind of meh on. Physical Education I know is like one of their bigger songs. I don't care for that one at all, really. Same for Crescent. I just think those two songs are just nah. That's probably my least favorite song on the album. But musically, excellent album. I think the production is really solid. I would shake Thompson's hand if given the chance. That's about it. I would probably say the exact same place as you, high B around there.
I don't think that this album is. It's not a particularly well written or well composed album in the same way that some of Animals as Leaders' other projects are. Like fucking like Parisia. That's an album where I look at it, I listen to it because I'm like, holy shit, this was really well written. Joy of Motion is a different kind of album, and it's an album where your jaw is just kind of on the floor, like, how the fuck for the entire thing. It's not an album that I listen to because I'm like, wow, this is greatly composed. I listen to it because it's just fucking impressive. It's really just impressive. I think this is definitely Tosin's most impressive project to listen to. Physical Education into Tooth and Claw, and then also having Woven Web at the end. It's like that's a crazy 1-2 punch on back-to-back tracks. Physical Education to Tooth and Claw. The drumming on this album is mind-boggling. This is kind of how it all is. The biggest detractor for me is all of the electronic synth parts. I think I'm with Aaron on this one. They don't really add much, and I think they got a lot better at utilizing them well and cutting them out when they're not needed as they went on. But I think this is an A-tier album just for the novelty of listening to it and being like, wow, these guys are like incredible musicians. So solid A-tier just for novelty.
No, I didn't listen to this.
Oh,
Oh,
you
I
didn't
thought I
listen
oh
to
said
yeah,
this
that.
one.
right. All right. So
Alright.
since Katsu didn't listen to this
Okay.
one, yeah, and since we all pretty much agreed, I guess what's gonna go to A.
Probably elaborate on the ones I didn't listen to yet.
All right. Next up, we got. Cool. This is Portal of Eye by Ni Oblivicaris. So to go down the track list, Tapestry of the Starless Abstract, pretty enjoyable. Never listened to this band till now. I like the violin inclusion, and I kind of recognize like this album has some like black metal influence as well in the guitars. Xenoflux, the intro riff is pretty sick. I like the violin inclusion again. And the gentle, clean guitar riff in the background in like the later half of the song. The ending kind of sounds like a proggy Insomnium song. Of the Leopard Butterflies, pretty solid. Not really much to say about it besides the nice clean vocals and the intensity this track brings. Forget Not, the composition on this one is pretty cool. Not really much to say about it other than that. Plague Flowers of the Kaleidoscope. Once again, I really enjoy the black metal elements. I think they're top tier in the songwriting. But the rest of the song, I think I like the first half of the song more. I think that's why I didn't really clarify it in my notes for some reason. As Icicles Fall, I think the riff in near the 130 mark, it reminds me of a Melodeath riff. Pretty great song. Of Petrichor, I fucking butcher that. Leaves Black Noise. I like the I kind of like the dancey feel of that. The other notes I had, this album is significantly more raw compared to a lot of the albums in this tier list. So I thought that was pretty cool. And I also like some of the compositions. Other than that, I think it's solid. Where would I put it? Probably low A. That's all I have.
It's a good album, but it is like by and large, I think the densest one on here. And because of how dense it is, it does kind of lead to me not remembering a lot of it. Where like a lot of it kind of just goes by as like, oh, that was cool. Um, but there's like really excellent composition. It's just my biggest issue is that a lot of the songs kind of melt together in my mind. But I agree, the violin inclusion, excellent. There are some really great standout tracks. Xenoflux and Forget Not, especially, are really great inclusions. There's just a handful of tracks I'm just like, nah, on. Of Petrichor Weeps the Black Noise is probably my least favorite overall. It's just the one I remember the least. I would put this in like mid B, probably, or good album, but not like a great one, in my opinion.
So this band is like, I like to describe this band as opeth but epic. Um, this is in my opinion, this is like what every single Opeth album should be. Um, this isn't the best Nail of the Scars project, but it's definitely like, I think it's the most hard hitting. It's the one where you listen to it and you really get like a full grasp for them the best. I think as they've gone on, they've gotten better and better. But Portal of Eye is incredible. Um, the black metal elements are super cool. The death metal elements are super cool. It's more raw than your average prog metal album. The violin is beautiful. I think every track on this is memorable, with the exception of Petrichor Weeps Black Noise. I just can't recall anything from that one. But everything else is it's a song that I can recall multiple parts from for every single song. I think the vocals are really really good here. I think the drumming is really good, and I think it's a super well produced album. So, with all that in mind, high A tier, very high A tier for me.
As I stated earlier, this is one of the albums I suggested for this. And oh my god, I love this album. As Icicles Fall is, like, I'd say top 15 songs ever. That is genuinely one of the most, if not the most beautiful song I have ever heard. Intro just reminds me of just, how do I describe it? Snow is melting and you're walking across this like marshy, snowy grassland plain, just all alone, recalling old memories. It's just so beautiful. And the violin, God, just love it, love it. Yeah, I like the little elements of like black metal and the occasional like little mellow deathy part. Vocals are also amazing. Like I've seen some people in another prog server I'm in say that the vocals are kind of two-sided. For me, I love them. Just God. Um, what else do I gotta say? Forget Not, also a banger. As Plague Flowers the what is it? As Plague Flowers the Kaleidoscope, also a banger song. Um, general, just a really beautiful, emotional album. I could probably just listen to for a while without like really any kinds of complaints or like, hey, can we turn on something else yet? But yeah, amazing album. I'd give this like very high A or very low S.
I think to average it out, I think putting it here would be um would be
I'm good
doable.
with that.
Yeah, I'm cool with that. Yeah.
Okay. All right, next album we got. Okay, Hacken.
This is one I did not listen to, so farewell for now.
Okay. To start out, I think Fat submitted this one, so I'm sorry. um,
Oh
I-
no, it's cool. I fully expected people not to care for this one.
The Path, I think it's a pretty intro. Atlas Stone. The grandness of this is nice with the choir. Kind of reminds me of Ocean Machine by Devin Townsend. I think the funkiness in it is cool. Cockroach King. This one starts out a little goofy and continues the goofiness throughout. Like around the 420 mark has a little jazzy section. This one is fine, but there are sections here that kind of put me to sleep. In Memoriam, vocalist kind of sounds like Maynard James Keenan from Tool on this track. Um, this one has some pretty sick riffs though. I like this. I like that track. Because it's there, cool acapella section in the first minute or so. Nice track, but not something I would return to. Falling back to earth. This track is a good balance between heavy riffs and funky weird riffs, which is good for the runtime that it has. As Death Embraces, pretty, but again, not something I would return to. Dalia, something like that. Pretty fun riff around the 2 minute mark. Not sure what the I'm not sure what the stringed instrument is called because it fucking left my mind. That's played on this track, but it sounds kind of funny. Good song, but there are some sections that lose me. Somebody pretty, but I don't vibe it that much. The Path Unbeaten, cool. Callback to like the intro. Nobody's a nice outro, but doesn't really have that. Really doesn't really have anything to me. Bonus notes. I think this album has full of good moments, but also a lot of moments that don't grab me. I think the album building, that like the flow of this album is cool. But personally, I think because of all the tracks that don't really in sections that don't do it for me, I'd probably put it low B, high C maybe.
Just wondering, is this your other C tier?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So this is my recommendation. Haken are like probably my favorite prog band. Not my favorite album by them though. This is like 5th out of 7 for me. I decided to just pick it because it's the proggiest. So, I like this album. I do. There are some tracks I'm kind of iffy on, like as you mentioned, As Death Embraces, because it's there. Songs I can honestly kind of do without. Somebody is a song I don't particularly jive with, and then I don't listen to The Path Unbeaten or Somebody because those are bonus tracks. But I think the longer songs, stuff like Atlas Stone, Paradalia, Falling Back to Earth, stuff like that, really good. Cockroach King's a little silly, but I love a little bit of goofiness. Then I'm gonna agree with you that In Memoriam is probably my favorite on the album. It's short, sweet, heavy as fuck. I love it. I would put this probably low A, high B. Not my favorite by them, but I still quite like it. Also, I really like the vocalist. I know, like, I figured it would be a little iffy with some of you guys, but I like it.
So I had so much fun listening to this album. It's like Dream Theater mixed with a little bit of Between the Buried and Me mixed with a little bit of like Mr. Bungle. That's how I read it. A lot of the segments and like lines from this album are just like evil clown music, and I really really dig that actually. They're super super fucking goofy, but it's like such a fun kind of goofy. Like I said, for lack of a better term, just kind of like evil clown music, especially some of the passages in Cockroach King, like literally left me like almost laughing out loud after them because of how like fucking silly they are. I think the vocals are pretty good. I think there's very good use of the synth here. The sound design and soundscaping is kind of nutty. Also, what raises this album up a little notch for me is all of the extra instruments are not just shitty fucking synthesizer presets. There are real instruments here for everything. There's a French horn player on this album. There's a trombone player on this album. There's a fucking cimbasso player on this album. There's like everything has real instruments and real recordings, which adds a lot of dynamic range to this that a lot of other prog metal doesn't really benefit from getting. So I would really put this in a solid middle A tier. It's an album that I would not listen to often at all, but it's definitely one that every time I listen to it, I feel like I'll have a ton of fun with. So solid A tier for me.
Oh wait, Fat. No, never mind. This is not my
Oh.
other C tier. Never mind.
Oh, it wasn't? Oh, my bad.
No, my bad, because I said I'd put it in C tier, but honestly, I'd probably put it in low B. So, I'd put
You
it.
can do high B, low A. I'm cool. I'm cool. I go either way.
I'm cool high B.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm cool with high B too.
All right. Next up, we got Mastodon. Okay. Okay. This is Emperor of Sand by Mastodon. Sultan's Curse. I think it's a pretty good start. Main riff kind of reminds me of Lamb of God a little bit. I like some of the effects that are put on the guitar. In one part, it kind of sounds kind of psychedelic. Show Yourself. It takes a 180 with a completely different mood compared to the first track. Precious Stones, pretty solid. I like some of the lead melodies and about halfway through the track. Steam Breather, pretty cool main riff. Roots Remain solid. Word to the Wise, this one is solid too. Ancient Kingdom, solid as well. Cool chorus. Destiny, solid, but not really much else to say about it. Andromeda, the dissonant riff is pretty cool. I really fucking didn't write interesting reviews for these songs. Scorpion Breath is solid. Jaguar God, pretty nice closer, nice acoustic intro with some cool riffs throughout, very nice. I want to be honest, I really wish I liked this more than I did, because this didn't, while everything was pretty solid, there wasn't really anything that that would like make me like go, whoa, I need to listen to that again. But I think it has good production and performances overall, and that's all I have.
For the notes of this one, my little notes app, I just have like the little GIF that says "It's peak" with the guy shaking his head. I love this album. I love this album a lot. Front to back, I think it is like consistent as hell. No bad tracks. I know a lot of people dump on "Show Yourself" because it's the more poppy of the songs, and I think it maybe could have done better on another album, but I still dig it. Roots Remain is one of my favorite Mastodon songs. Same for Andromeda, Jaguar God, all of them. Only track I'm a little iffy on is I find Scorpion Breath to maybe be a little weaker than some of the other ones. But besides that, excellent. Album all the way through. Yeah, that's really about it. I think drum work really great. I think riff-wise is one of my favorite Mastodon albums. I would put this high S, but that's just me.
I'm gonna disappoint some people. This album is mediocre as all hell, in my opinion. There's just like nothing interesting to grasp onto at all. It's not a very riff-heavy album, which disappoints me because I think like Mastodon's strongest suit, and I'm not a huge Mastodon fan, but Mastodon's strongest suit is always their riffing to me. This is an album where I couldn't really tell you any of the riffs off of it. I think there's a very good vocal performance, which is notable. But it's one of their least sludgy. It's kind of stoner, but I don't know. There's better stoner albums. I think as Mastodon goes on, they just kind of progressively fall off more and more. Until their most recent album was better than Emperor of Sand in my opinion, but I don't like Emperor of Sand very much. It's just not interesting to me. I think it would be better off as a 3 or 4 track little EP. Solid mid C tier, mid C for me.
It's just not too many good riffs. Like even on my favorite track, like there's like Steam Breather, by the way, that song is pretty damn great. It's like that one main riff just doesn't always get my attention. It kind of just feels like, we need a riff for this. Make a riff, quick. We got like 15 minutes. It kind of just feels like rushed, kind of like, how do I say it, guitar-wise in some parts, but like really good vocal work. I like the drumming too. Precious Stones is also pretty cool. Show Yourself, I also like. Everything else didn't really ever catch my attention. Jaguar God actually also is pretty good, but everything else I just like don't remember. Just like slightly above average Mastodon stuff here. Just it's not the Mastodon album I would like go to listen to if someone told me, let's play some Mastodon. Like very, very high chance I would not play something off of this album. And I think that's basically all I gotta say about it. So I'd give it maybe like high to mid B tier.
Okay. Since Fat has it pretty much all the way up, and Tommy has it in mid C tier, and I have it in B tier. So I think to confiscate for Fat would just to be put it in front of Hacken, in my opinion.
Yeah, so you can move it down. Since it sounds like most people don't really care for it. I just
No,
sorry, I'm the number
we
one
have to.
Dawn Glazer.
No, because I have to. We're confiscating for your opinion. So this is in this instance, this would be ordered like Fear of the Dark, Fear of the Blank Planet would be last right now.
Okay, cool. Thanks, babe.
Yeah, no problem. Is everyone okay with this?
Yeah, I'm
good
going with that.
Okay, cool.
Actually,
Next-
it's we're like exactly at place it.
Next up, we got Cool, an album that by a band that is pretty praised, and this was my first exposure to it when I went to go listen to these albums. So, Inferno, it's got a nice groovy riff. As the main riff is pretty groovy. The vocalist reminds me of someone that I can't put my finger on. The synth section reminds me of a Children of Bodom song. Pretty good song overall. I wrote, ooh, yeah, hit me with that groove for Wicked. I love the clean section, right into a sick riff, great song. Incantations of the Apprentice. I really enjoy how the synths sound on this. I like this one. I like this one too. Kind of sounds like an experimental heavy metal song in my opinion. The Accolade 2, I really enjoyed the first solo in the song, which says something because I normally don't pay attention to solos in metal songs, because I'm more of a riff dude. King of Terrors, the intro riff reminds me a lot of Pantera. Weirdly enough, I kind of really vibe to this one. I think the riffs are awesome. Turning, the song has a great display of sick proggy power metal mixed with heavy metal riffs, or mixed with heavy riffs, not heavy metal. Awakenings, I just said pretty solid. That's all I had. The title track, the title track is basically a large, like, story of the Odyssey in music form. I enjoyed the acoustic part near the first part of the song. It sounded very Opeth-esque. I really like how the song changes throughout the song, like it's chapters, and it doesn't really sound like the same song. It doesn't sound bloated to me at all. I think the runtime is justified, because my last note for that song is funny thing that this 24 minutes to me feels like nothing. Masquerade, very nice closer. I thought the intro was a very neat, like, neoclassical part, and the outro was super sick, and I loved the leads. I like the guitar tone on this album. I like pretty much everything that I like pretty much how everything sounded on this album. I feel like the orchestra added quite a bit of this, and added a little more, like, dynamics, as well as, like, the keyboard solos. I think this is a good album. I'd probably put this in middle of A tier. That's all I have.
Pretty much everything you said, word for word, I agree with. I think every single song on this album is excellent. There's definitely some favorites though. For me, I really like the turning, just because of how different it is compared to a lot of the other songs on here. Because a lot of the songs on here tend to settle into more of like a groovy kind of pace, and the turning is much more like fast. Big fan of that one. Inferno was really great. The opening like little lead riff that's super sick sounding. Wicked and King of Terrors, for lack of a better word, are very wicked. And then the only track I might be a little iffy on is the Odyssey, but that's because I have the patience of fly and can't listen to 24 minutes. But overall, I think you pretty much hit the nail on the head, except I would put this album higher up. I would go high A, maybe a low S.
This is a good album. I love Symphony X, so I have a bit of a different opinion. It's a band that I returned to that I used to be really into back when I first got into metal and stuff. To me, this album is a B tier, and that's because it is entirely overshadowed by the New Mythology, in my opinion. The New Mythology is this, but better. But this album still has a lot of merit. The orchestration is very good. The title track is great. It's very short, 24 minutes, like Aaron said. First two tracks are both hard hitting. I think they could lean a bit more into the power metal elements here, and the vocals are as always great. Symphony X is great with vocals, but B tier, I mean, not bad, just could be better.
I'm gonna real quick cut in, and I'm gonna agree with you that the new Mythology Suite is my favorite Symphony X album too.
Like this album, but I think my view on it is lower for two pretty silly reasons. The first reason is that goddamn, I think this is kind of long, especially. Okay, yeah, this is just long. Like, sometimes I like albums of this length, but like, this just doesn't do it to me. Like the length, at least. And the second reason, which is somehow even more silly, is I felt like I was misled. I was told this was a power metal album, and it is in ways, but it didn't feel power metal-y enough, and it just didn't fit the bill for young little, I don't know, dumb me that was obsessed with power metal, and my view on it was just slightly squandered. I re-listened to some of this album at one point to see if my view on it would be different, but it kind of wasn't. It was slightly higher, I guess, because I'm more of a prog guy now. But yeah, kind of going to like actual review of this album. This was good. Had some like really cool riffs. I like the orchestra and stuff. Added this really cool feeling of like it telling this actual story about like the Odyssey, because I really like Greek mythology. I don't know how much I've talked about that, but Inferno and the Inferno and Wicked have some really great riffs. Masquerade is pretty cool too. The Odyssey, yeah, it's cool. Like I'm talking about the title track here. It's also cool. Just again, goddamn, I do really need to be 24 minutes. But I sounded a bit too harsh on it. I still like this album. I'd give it like a low A tier.
All right. I would also. I feel like a low A tier would justify the placements because, where would you place it in B, Tommy?
I'd give it a mid B.
Okay. And Fat, where'd you say you want it?
I said high A, low S.
All right. I think at the end of A tier
Bottom A.
would be fine.
Yeah, that works.
I'm good with it.
Okay. Cool. All right. Next up we get. Okay. By the way, I'm going to save these three for last because I know if BT joins, he's gonna want to talk about those a lot. So next up we got. K.
Oh, brother.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to your
I
review.
surprisingly enough have not listened to this yet, so I will be back.
Okay. Okay. This is Lateralis by Tool. I cut out the talking about the interludes because I think like talking about the interludes is just a waste of time. But to start, the Grudge. This track is fucking awesome with the sick bass line and heavy riffs. The atmosphere builds up as it goes on. It really accompanies Maynard's voice really well. The Patient, I think the song builds up super well as well. It's one of the catchiest on the album as well. I really enjoy Maynard's vocal melodies that he lays down on this one. I think it's one of the best on the album. Schism is a classic. Everyone knows it. I think the P fits, or the wow, that was stupid. The P says fit. I think. I don't know what I wrote down. That's fucking stupid.
Does the P fit?
A parabola. I never really understood the hype between like the transition. I think Rosetta Stone in the intro track does it better, to be honest. But holy shit, the main riff and parabola is so fucking good. I shut up, Fat. I love Parabola. It's a great song. Ticks and Leashes. Some people say this is the worst off the album, and I have to hard disagree because I love just the aggression Maynard brings, and I love the riffs too. Lateralis, it's the Spaghetti Fettuccine song. I think it's good. Disposition, chill.
Spaghetti what?
Disposition.
Fettuccine.
Yeah, that's the Spaghetti Fettuccine song.
Fibonacci.
FIBA.
Fibonacci.
Disposition, it's chill, but it's not a favorite. I like the tribal instrumentation. Reflection, I love the bass line in the song as well. Good song, but one of the few that I'd say goes on for a bit too long. Triad, I think this track has some cool moments and ideas, but I think this is where I think this is where the album loses its momentum. But thank the Lord that it's near the end of the album. Fail the OAD. I think it's a throwaway track. I think the production is timeless, and I love this album. I'd probably put this in low S tier.
The Grudge is really good. I think The Grudge is a great track. Patient might be one of my favorites on here. Same for Parabola. Like you said, the main riff on that song, that's pretty good. Schism is a certified hood classic for a reason. Reflection, I think, is another really great track. Kind of takes a minute to get going, but I think it's a very interesting vocal performance for Maynard. Sounds kind of different from what he usually does. That agree on Picks and Leeches. That's another one of my favorites. Love how just very piss and vinegar that song is. And the ending 3 tracks kind of lose me a little. I really like Reflection, but Disposition is whatever, and Triad is the same riff for 6 minutes. And then I guess the last little point. The interludes, they exist. They're cool, I guess. Could be worse. Could always be Anima that has 5 of them. It's a good album. I would put it high B, low A, around there. But I do think they have better albums. Cobb 10,000 Days.
Yeah, I agree with 10,000 Days.
Alrighty. Lateralis is the best Tool album, in my opinion. That's not high praise from me, but if I was to pick one for you to listen to, it'd be this one. That being said, the album is entirely too long. Honestly, you could cut everything after Ticks and Leeches, and I don't think the album would lose anything but 30 minutes of dead weight. There are some great tracks. I think The Grudge is really good. I think Parabola is really good. Schism is obviously a classic. But I think everything after Ticks and Leeches is mediocre and stupid and silly and self-indulgent. It's I don't know. It's like fucking. I don't know. I don't even know how I can describe this album. It's like imagine Shinedown but prog. That's my best way to describe this. It's very much just a 2000s rock album with long songs and unconventional time signatures. So if you're trying to get into prog, I think this is a great album to start with, since it's so similar to your standard early 2000s butt rock, dad rock stuff, but just a little bit different. However, that also being said, that knocks it down a bit of a tier for me, because at that point I'd rather just go listen to something like Shinedown or 3 Days Grace. But this album's not without merit. I think it's a low B tier for me.
Yeah, I kind of knew you were gonna say all that. Anyway, let's. Okay, so I would put it in S tier. What would you say, Fat? Where you'd put it?
High B, low A.
All right, I think we'll put it in the front of B then.
Yeah.
Really, that tracks.
All right.
Damn, I think it's funny that we've only had one S, and we're almost halfway done.
Yeah. And
God intended there are no good prog albums.
That will be changing though here soon. And
Maybe.
next, maybe. Next up we got, cool.
Bilateral Black Lepers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. This is my other C tier. So the title track, I think it's solid. I like the drum patterns in the song. Forced entry, decent. Starting to get a little genty in some of the songs. Restless is pretty decent. Not much to say. Thorn, nothing in the song that I really care about, but the Isan, or however you pronounce his name, the Isan feature is pretty cool. Indifferentia, very pretty track. I like the jazz type feel of the intro. Waste of Air, pretty good riff after the intro. Mediocrity wins. I like the funky bass slap. I think it's the best song on the album. The riffs are pretty good. Cryogenic Desires, it's okay. Don't really have much to say about it. Acquired Taste, I don't know. I think the title of the song, it just explains that song to me. Like I don't really vibe that track at all. Painful Detour. I think the both vocals are pretty, and that's about it. My bonus notes I wrote. I don't know. This falls in the realm of. I don't know where this falls, like in the realm of prog, like of prog fans, but this is definitely like notable to me and kind of boring. I don't really think it's not really my thing. That's all I have.
This was a recommendation of mine. In hindsight, I'm kind of kicking myself for putting this one on here and not their third album, Cold, because that one's a little more moody and a lot more interesting. But we're letting bygones be bygones, I guess. If Cole was here, I put that on top of S. But whatever. So Bilateral. It's pretty good. I like it. I think Forced Entry is a pretty good. Waste of Air, like you mentioned, is pretty good. My only issue is that I don't like Enar's harsh vocals at all, really. I don't think they're great. It's very kind of, I guess, whiny, I guess I would put this the word, but whatever. MB Track 5 is my favorite on there. I love the way it builds and just kind of like has that release, and it's very cool. Mediocrity wins, another one I really like. Painful Detour, but there's just a few songs in there I just don't particularly jive with. Acquired Taste is one of them. I just find that song to be whatever. And my least favorite's Thorn. Isan's cool, I guess, but he has better features with them. I like this album as a whole, and I find it to kind of go by a lot faster than a lot of the other albums here, because I think a length is going to be an issue for a certain album that's coming up from a very popular prog band. But yeah, I think length is like one of the best things about this album. It doesn't bore me a whole lot. I would put this low A, but I'm totally cool with putting it in like B tier if no one else jives with it.
This album is a blank fucking slate to me. I really have absolutely nothing special to say about this band or this album. I've tried to get into Leprous many times. It just doesn't work out. It's like if someone was like, "Hey, have you ever heard a prog metal album?" and there was like royalty free. That's how I would describe this. It's royalty free prog metal to me. There's some very avant-garde parts in this album which are very interesting and kind of fun, and I'm also going to agree with Fat that Cole is a much more interesting album than this. However, I think Bilateral, by and large, is just kind of boring. It's not without good moments though. Waste of Air is a really really good song, and so is Thorn. I think Thorn is great. I think the Isan feature in Thorn is great. Isan always does good work. But I think this is also just kind of a case of too many cooks in the kitchen. Because if you really look at the list of personnel on this album, there's a lot of fucking people that helped write this album and put stuff into this album. And the end result is it not feeling like anyone particular left their mark on it, you know? It kind of feels like everybody did a little something. One thing I will appreciate from it is real trumpet in tracks 4 and 10. That's always nice to see. It always adds a lot of dynamic range, and you get a real horn in there.
So, high C tier. High C tier.
So where do you say you'd put it, Fat?
Oh my god, I just realized I was deafened.
Bruh.
I said high B low A, but I'm cool with C tier.
Alright, fine. We need something in C tier anyway.
Yeah, so we can put C tiers. We can because there's gonna be another album that's gonna be the source of my ire later.
Oh boy. It's definitely Ocean Machine. I'm kidding. Next up we get.
He's so funny.
I'm so funny. Next up we got Rivers of Nile, or
Rivers of Based.
what is that? Saxophone? Get out of here. Okay, this is where owls know my name. To start, Cancer slash Moonspeak. I just wrote it's neat, very, very, very good, in depth review. Me. The Silent Life. I'm not sure what it is, but the intro riff sounds a little weird to me. Not in a bad or good way. It just sounds weird. It might be the guitar tone, but I don't know how to describe it. And the song also reminds me of Melodeath sometimes, and the bass lines are pretty cool. And oh my god, is that a fucking saxophone? A Home. There's a riff in there that reminds me of it reminds me of music from the second Pac-Man game on the Namco Museum game. Decent track. It's a very obscure reference.
I know what you're talking about.
Old Nothing. Still not a favorite of mine after another listen. I think I listened to this before, this tier list, because Tom gave it to me as an exchange. The subtle change. I like how the song builds. In the second half with the saxophone leading. The next track, I enjoy the synth sound in the song. It kind of sucks that the rest of the track kind of sounds like a movie trailer soundtrack. Hollow, I think the clean vocals in this are applied very well and they fit. Pretty good track. Death is Real is pretty good. The title track, it's cool. It's a nice slower track and I like the fun bendy riff. Capricorn, it's got some cool moments. Bonus notes. I went to the shout box for this on Rate Your Music, and someone said that the drums are so distracting. The blast beats sound like a lawn sprinkler, and I cannot get that out of my head now because it's so accurate. My main gripe with this album is basically the drum sounds. I really just don't like how they sound, but overall, I think I'd give this a B somewhere. But that's all I have.
Hi. I think this album's pretty cool. I first right off the cuff, yeah, the drums sound like a sprinkler. You can especially hear it in like Old Nothing, just with the intro does. But otherwise, I really like this album. I think Nivers and Neil are pretty good. Not my favorite from them. I personally prefer the work for its more variety, but Where Olive Know My Name's really good. Personal favorite tracks: The Silent Life. I like Old Nothing. I know you don't really care for it, but I like Old Nothing. And then title track's really good. Home, Subtle Change. Personal favorite, I have to go with Hollow probably. That song's grown on me a hell of a lot since I spun this again. I think the saxophone is much appreciated. I like it when they throw in little silly instruments. It was one of my favorite things about Neob when we did Portal of I. I think the violin on that album's silly. I think the saxophone on this album's silly, or in my humble opinion. But that's about it. The only other words I have about it is I knew someone who absolutely fucking hated this band just because of the saxophone, and I think that's funny. And I think about it every single time
I think I know who you're
listen
talking about. I think I know who you're talking.
They're not in this server if it means anything.
I know. They were in another server.
Okay, cool. We'll talk about it later. Yeah, this is an A tier for me. Like mid A.
This album is dope. That I think I usually don't really like proggy tech death. But this is a hard exception for me. This is a great album. The tech death parts are very tasteful. It's very proggy, which I like. The gent parts are kind of cool. I always appreciate when a whole album doesn't rely on being gent. and djent is used as a kind of accent to other elements. Um, the saxophone is great. Um, the trumpet on what track is that? I'm trying to think. One of the tracks. Fuck. I think Terrestria is the one that has the trumpet. The trumpet in Terrestria is great, cool. I love the jazz fusion elements. It's something very new, kind of very innovative for tech death to have like that sort of jazz fusion. Not like to add jazz fusion to tech death, that's been done, but like in the capacity that it was here is very different. I think the harsh vocals are great on this album. I think this album is produced very well. I am personally a fan of the really clicky kick drum. I just think it adds to this album being a modern product. I don't like when an album is overproduced, but I think prog is one of those areas where overproducing an album can kind of make it sound special in a way. Make it sound kind of sterile, but also like robotic, but in a kind of new, fresh way. I think some newer prog thrives off that, especially in the djentier parts of this album. I just think it's super unique. There's not a ton of music like it, so for that I give it solid mid A tier.
So, I'd put it.
Bottom A.
I would personally put it here. Me personally, not us together, but I was thinking either bottom of A or above Symphony X.
I'd say one above the Odyssey.
What about you, Fat?
I personally would put the Odyssey over, but I'm cool with putting it over the Odyssey since it sounds like Where Owls Know My Name got a bigger reception.
Yeah, sure. Let's do that.
That would.
All right. Just because I want to get it out of the way, I'm not doing the random click thing because we're doing the Silent Perseverance next. And
Bibbidi toilet.
And I did not write notes for this because I've listened to this album religiously. This was my first death metal album. It is the album that got me into death metal. Scavenger of Human Sorrow is fantastic. I love every moment of it. Bite the Pain has such a really cool like thrashy riff. Spirit Crusher. If you don't count Voice of the Soul, the Spirit Crusher was my first death metal song, and this has the riff where people are like, "Oh, that's like the metalcore, the 0578 or whatever." Story to Tell, phenomenal. I just the chorus where he just screams "Tell it." It's fucking phenomenal. Flesh and the Power It Holds is their longest song, and I love every waking moment of it. That the intro and the melodies leading up to the dun 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 dun, that section is just magical. I love it. Voice of the Soul is gorgeous. To Forgive is to Suffer. Also peak. A Moment of Clarity. This is the only song off this album where I feel like this would fit more into a Control Denied album. But especially like with the chorus, I feel like with clean vocals it would make it a little better, but that's just me. Painkiller, the Judas Priest cover is legendary. People either love it or hate it. But anyway, this album has generated a lot of hate over the years for some fucking reason. Usually because people say wankery, or like the production sucks, or the vocals suck, which is ironic because the vocals are what got me into this band and the genre. But this is like, I think this is my favorite album off of this entire tier list, so it's top of S tier for me. It's my third favorite death album. That really says something. But otherwise that's it.
So you know how I said earlier that there was going to be one album that receives all of my scrutiny?
Oh no.
It's not this one. I just wanted to do that.
You fucker.
What I will receive scrutiny for is that it's like my fifth favorite album by them. I don't love this one. There are some really good moments on it. I think Scavenger, Human Sorrow, fucking phenomenal. Voice of the Soul, excellent. That could be their best song objectively. I've cried. I've cried at least once to that song. I know. I don't know. It's just a good fucking song, man. To Forgive is to Suffer is really great. I gotta look at the track list. Hold on, I'm like spacing. Fight the Pain, really good. Story to Tell, really good. Flesh is really good. There are two songs on here I'm a little on. One of them is Painkiller. I like the cover. I don't love the cover. And the other one is Spirit Crusher. The Spirit Crusher is a song that has never. Spirit Crusher has never clicked for me.
Damn.
I don't know why. It is like easily my least favorite on the album. Just for whatever reason, just like doesn't do it for me. I'm sorry, guys. I figured I would. It's a running theme that I have the dissenting opinion here. I figured it would be the same for this album too. Other things, I think this is one of the best Death albums, like riff-wise. Some of the riffs on here are absolutely fucking gnarly. As much as I really don't care for Spirit Crusher, I do think it has the 0578 riff, the one that everyone says the riff they ripped off of Avenged Sevenfold. That riff, really great album all the way around. My only other note on there is that I think vocal-wise, this might be my least favorite Death album. I don't know. I think his vocals are a little stronger in like human and individual thought patterns, symbolic like that era. I think his high-pitched vocals are they're good, just not my cup of tea usually. All of that being said, I would still put this in A tier, just maybe like a low A.
This is not only the best prog metal album of all time, but it's also the best death metal album of all time. So it's obviously Death's best album to that same extent. This is a clean 10 out of 10 for me. There's really no low points. The vocal performance is amazing. Easily the best from Chuck, or like just like out of any death metal band that does high vocals like this, I think Chuck perfected it here. The riffing, again, I think everything Death did before this just builds up to the riffing on Sound of Perseverance. You listen to Symbolic, which is a great album, but every time I listen to it, I think this riffing is good, but it's leading somewhere better. And then I listen to Sound of Perseverance right after, and I'm like, this is where it was going. Everything earlier in their career, it all culminates at Sound of Perseverance. There's some really good tech death lines in this album, but it's not overused. It doesn't rely on being technical to be good. It does survive on just genuinely good riffing. The bass work on this is something that stands out really, really hard. The drumming is good. It's very good. It keeps up very well with how breakneck everything else is. Voice of the Soul is beautiful. Genuinely beautiful. And the Painkiller cover is great, in my opinion. I think, like, it's a strange... It's a weird cover of Painkiller, but it works very well. A lot of other bands would try and kind of translate it into their style, but I think it works better by Death just kind of playing Painkiller down a whole step and with the screamed. It's like they didn't try and rewrite it, you know. They didn't try and reinvent anything. It works just because it's a really, really bitchin' cover of Painkiller. The leads on this album are really good too. Every track's good. Moment of Clarity is the worst one, but even there, it's like a 8 out of 10 track for me. Yeah, honestly, it's just a banger. It's peak high S tier.
Well, I'm pretty close ditto to Tommy and Aaron here. This was my first death metal album, and basically exactly like Aaron, Voice of the Soul doesn't count as a death metal song, then I guess like Spirit Crusher would technically be my first death metal song ever that I like really, really like. That song shaped basically where I am in my music now because that song is just phenomenal. Riff's amazing. That bass line in the intro is just forever implanted in my brain. I probably remember that song, like that intro of the song better than like how to pronounce my own name. It's insane. Ah, damn. I love this album. This is one of the two albums on this whole thing that I would give a like a pretty solid 10 out of 10. Scavenger of Human Sorrow, amazing. That drum fill intro, spectacular, and the chorus also amazing. Fight the Pain, just such a raw and heavy song that just like fills me with adrenaline. I love it. Also love the part where he sounds like he says the N-word. Everything else too. Flesh and the Power It Holds, it used to be my favorite song ever. Now I'd say it's like my fourth favorite song ever. That song is just ballistic. It sounds like Chuck was working on that like ever since he picked up the guitar. It's amazing. And then that amazing, intense, heavy song, Changing Right, to like how beautiful Voice of the Soul is. It just penetrates my heart in this amazing way. And what like puts it in my brain even more is that there is no kind of drums on that song whatsoever. That song, it's Chuck's signature song for a reason. That song is just him showing off how amazing of a guitar player he is. Like, it's so amazing. I don't know anyone who can do that. He's still my favorite guitarist ever for a reason. A Moment of Clarity, slightly weaker, but I actually am a strong defender of the song. Everyone else says it's like, 10 out of 10. This one's a bit weaker. I'd still give it like a 9 out of 10. I love that song. Painkiller cover, God, that thing. I love it more than the original. I'm one of the few who will say that. That scream just makes it so much better, and just how Chuck does it, amazing. Amazing outro to Death in general, actually. I still love that band. They're like most important band to me ever. I'd not be here if like I never listened to Voice of That Soul. That one fateful day. Very high S tier. Like if I could put this at the tip top, I would. I love this album.
This is my favorite Death album, easily. Flesh is my favorite death metal song, easily. Voice of the Soul, again, like everybody said, beautiful song. I love the drums. I think this is like peak death metal drums. Again, the songwriting, just everything. I love the guitar tone. This is one of my favorite parts about this. I don't think there's a weak song. I think Moment of Clarity is the weakest, but again, it's still probably like a 9. This is like, yeah, highest S tier. This is probably my favorite one of my favorite albums on here, and I really do like the part where he says the N-word. But just like all the riffs, this is probably my favorite album with riffs. I think it has some of the greatest riffs I've ever heard in my life. So this is in like Voice of the Soul. I'll never forget where I was when I heard it. It's just one of those songs. So this is like easy high S tier for me.
Yeah, so Fat, since you're in the majority, you get to pick where it goes.
I'm in the majority.
No, or minority, sorry.
Minority.
Okay, so yeah, I'm looking at this now and I'm noticing that there's a very empty tier right at the bottom where this album should go. Anyways, I think just because 4 out of 5 of the people said this goes right at the top, I think it can go on the top. It deserves it.
Sure thing. Alright, next up, and BT, by the way, I saved these 3 for you, so you can talk.
Thank you.
Talk my ear off about them. Anyway, next up we got, cool, finally, an Opeth album. The 2 Opeth albums that are on here, I wrote a fuck ton of notes, because long songs. The Leper of Affinity, I think that, oh man, I should have rewrote my notes because my opinion has changed on, but I'm gonna read these anyway. I think the song is fine. I like some section of the song, some sections in the song. The sections I like go by fast. This section at 5:40 is pretty neat. I think the piano outro is pretty cool. overall not super crazy about this track, but good. I actually really enjoy this track now because my opinion has changed after listening to this album like what 6 times or so. Bleak, I really enjoy Bleak. I think the vocal melodies and Michael's performance overall is amazing. It's one of my favorites off of this. Harvest, I pretty much love everything about this song. Great softer track by them. Love the verse and the chorus melodies for this. One of my favorites off it too. The Drapery Falls, I love the chord progression and the intro, and it goes through the entire song as well. The vocal melody, where Michael sounds a little lo-fi, I enjoy. Another favorite of mine off of this, Dirge of November. Very pretty for a minute. It's very pretty in like the first 2 minutes. I think the first half of the song is better than the second half because a lot in the second half doesn't really keep my attention. The Funeral Portrait, I like the main riff on this one, very fun and groovy. The section at 6:25 is pretty cool. I don't really have much else to say about it, besides it's also one of my favorites. Patterns in the Ivy is a nice short and sweet acoustic track. Title track, the title track actually clicked with me recently, but I still think it could be cut short a little bit. It's probably my least favorite like main track off of this, but yeah. Overall, this album has grown on me, and I like all the songs here pretty much. But unlike Still Life, where it doesn't really feel like an hour plus runtime now to me like it used to. The critical acclaim this album has, is it deserving? Kinda. I would not say this is the best prog album ever. I would not even say it's the best prog death metal album ever. But it is indeed good. I used to say this album works best as like a single track listen. Honestly, I think it would be S tier for me if like I was raking like individual tracks and not just like the entire album as a whole. But this album did go up a tier for me. It went from B tier in my normal Opeth ranking to A tier. And I think I stand by that. I think it's A tier. That's all I have.
It's cool. So, right off the cuff, Leper Affinity is my first ever Opeth song. It's the song that got me into death metal. I'll still hold it as one of, like, I think the strongest 10 minutes in their entire discography. That song is captivating front to back. It is so fucking good. Bleak is cool. It has the best musician ever, Steven Wilson, on it. Then there is Harvest, super pretty. That one's a big fan of that one. Earth for November, really great song. Atmosphere-wise, I think this album is absolutely excellent. I think Dirge is a really good example of that. The Drapery Balls is pretty cool. Then there's The Funeral Portrait, which is one of my favorites on there. Like you mentioned, super groovy main riff. That song's super fun all the way through. Patterns in the Ivy is a pretty nice interlude. Then there's the title track. This song could probably lose 4 minutes, and you wouldn't lose anything of substance to me. The acoustic bit where they're playing like the same riff for like what feels like 5 minutes, I think that part could have been shortened way down. My biggest complaint with the album, by and large, this album feels really long-winded. Like, you feel the length on this one. Same goes for Still Life. We'll talk about Still Life eventually. But you just feel the length of Blackwater Park for sure. And besides Funeral Portrait and Leper Affinity, and especially the title track, including this, a lot of the songs do feel kind of long to me. Well, not Harvest, because Harvest is like 5 minutes, I'm sorry. But I like it. I don't love it. I like it. I would go high B tier.
I think this is the best death metal Opeth album. Opeth has better work, but I think out of all of their heavy work, this is definitely their best. It's an album that feels short to me. which is rare for Opeth. I usually feel all 60, 70 minutes of an Opeth album, but this one I really don't. I think I really don't have any particular reason why this is my favorite heavy Opeth album. It just kind of is. It just works the best. It fits the best. I think there's some really, really good vocals on this. I think there's some really good drumming. I think some of the quieter and more melodic sections are very, very good. For example, all of Patterns in the Ivy is a spectacular little 2 minutes. The opening track is great. Leper Affinity is one of Opeth's really, really like magnum opus songs, in my opinion. Steven Wilson's feature is pretty damn good. For all of his shortcomings, I think he does great here. It's a very somber album, but I like that for it. It's atmospheric. It's kind of dark. It's an ominous sounding album at times. Very like poetic almost. I don't have a ton to say. I think it's a solid A tier, solid middle of A tier.
Everyone in this voice channel right now knows I am one of the biggest Opeth dick riders out there. I absolutely love Opeth so much. This album though, maybe not as much. I still like it a lot though. The Libra Pretty, great track throughout. My main two highlights from that song is the chorus. I'm surprised none of you talked about the chorus, but the chorus is amazing. It's in like my top 5 Opeth choruses. It is, wow. And then that one riff, I don't know how to describe it, so I'll just like make it with my voice. That, if you know what I'm talking about, I love that riff. Bleak, it's good. I like that intro riff, but kind of overrated for me. Harvest, I like that song lots. It's one of my favorite clean Opeth songs. I have an atrocious amount of plays on that song. But for November, first half is great. Outro drags, Trickery Falls. That song's kind of forgettable, except like this one part where it's just Michael doing like cleans and acoustics, and then it just turns into like heavies while he's still continuing like clean part with his vocals, if that makes any sense. Patterns in the Ivy, pretty cool interlude. Blackwater Park. That song could be like 45% shorter, and like I feel like nothing would happen. That's about it. I like the atmosphere for this album too a lot. If they applied it onto maybe like better music, where down Steven Wilson Ussie over here didn't make it feel like a sludge, maybe I'd like it a lot more. But yeah, still overall good album. Like maybe high A tier.
So I had to listen to this album twice. First time I gave it like it would have been a D tier for me. So I had to re-listen to it, and I liked it a lot more. But I love the choruses in most of the songs. I thought they were great. That was like one of my biggest notes. And I I thought it got really boring in some parts, and I thought the title track, like everybody said, it was way too long. Like, I'm fine with 20-minute songs, stuff like that, but it just felt like it was just dragging on. I thought it was one of the greatest opening tracks from Opeth, but then again, Still Life and My Arms Are Hers, I think, are miles better. So it wasn't my favorite from what I've heard from Opeth, and I don't think everybody saying it's the best prog album, all that. I think it's stupid, but I can see how you like it. But for me, it's probably like middle B tier. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Just because of that, I think it would be justifiable to put it at the very end of A.
Valid.
yeah,
That's good.
Next up, we got Mastodon. Okay. This is "Crack the Sky" by Mastodon. This would be my second time listening to this album. Oblivion. This intro, the intro is pretty great. This song has definitely grown on me. I think the riffs are great, and I like the chorus. Although I think the vocalist kind of sounds a little nasally. Great track overall though. Divinations. This one's alright. Though I don't know if this is me talking on my ass, but I think the vocalist kind of sounds like Ozzy at one point in one section. Quintessence. There is a section that reminds me of Opeth. I can really hear like the progginess in this track. A lot of weird guitar riffs and synth lines. Pretty fun chorus though. I like the last minute of the song pretty as well. Very cool riffs and harmonized guitar parts. The SAR. Not gonna lie, I think the intro reminds me of Death Spell Omega, which is a very avant-garde-ish like band, and this riff just reminds me of that. Where it transitions at the 4-minute mark is neat. The riff at 7 minutes is pretty sick too. Solid track and has its moments. Ghosts of Kirlia, pretty decent, and the lead part in the second half also reminds me of something from like a Tool song. The title track, I like the sludgy kind of sections in the song. Surprise harsh vocal jump scare. Weird vocoder in the second half. I feel like the heavier I like the heavier riffs in this song. But overall, I think the song kind of feels like a mess, even though I do like enjoy it. The Last Baron. I'm not quite sure. I said I'm not quite sure what the right about this song. There's a lot of shit going on, and I cannot keep up. It's alright. There's some pretty solid riffs across the section at 9 minutes and 45 seconds. Is pretty neat. Nice change of pace for the song. I enjoy the outro of it. My bonus notes is that I think the production is decent. Some of the songs get super busy, like even for me, even though I don't really complain about like busy songs. I like the experimentation on this album a bit. I like it, but I'm not sure if I get the whole like top 10 album of all time from like some people. I wrote perhaps it would grow on me. This is definitely better than Emperor of Sand, so I'd probably put this in low A tier.
I'm still the number one Mastodon Glazer, so yeah, this album's really good. I pretty much everything you said I agree with, outside the fact that I quite like Divinations. Divinations took a while to grow on me, but I really like it. Oblivion, excellent track right off to start. Quintessence is whatever. It's probably my least favorite one on here. Either that or Ghost of Corellia. Both of them are just kind of meh to me. Title track is really great, but for the shortcomings of like Quintessence and Ghost of Corellia, those are made up tenfold by the SAR and the Last Baron. Both those are fucking phenomenal. Those are two of my favorite Mastodon songs for sure. That's really about it. I like the inclusion of Braun as a vocalist. He does like the more clean vocals. I appreciate them adding that sound side to him. I know a lot of people don't like it. A lot of people bitch it's like, oh well, they died after Leviathan. I think those people should jump off a bridge personally. But what else? It's good. I would give it like high A probably.
I like this one. It's my favorite from Mastodon, I think. Lots of sludgy parts, lots of more stoner parts, some cool like psychedelic parts. Very good vocals. I mean, honestly, like out of any of the Mastodon things, I always find myself enjoying the vocals the most. There's some pretty good riffing here. It's kind of a bit of a soup, bit of a riff soup, but that's okay. I don't mind riff soup. I think just overall, it's a really fun album. I think The Last Baron is one of the shortest 13-minute songs ever to be crafted. Really feels like 6 or 7, not like a full 13. Crack the Sky is a great song. Oblivion's a really good opener. I don't have a ton to say. It's just super solid. It's well produced. It's It's an album that, despite having an extensive credit list, it's good. It's not like, despite the amount of engineers and producers on this album, the mix doesn't get fucked up, which is impressive. Like really, really and truly impressive when there's this many engineers on an album and it doesn't get completely fucked. Like it's like 6 or 7 separate engineers, which is a lot. So that's really cool to see. Little banjo part, that's kind of neat. That's kind of fun. But overall, just solid. Bottom A tier for me.
You know, I like this album. Out of all the Dawn albums I've heard, this is also probably my favorite, mainly because Oblivion and The Last Baron are such insane bangers. Like, how do I even describe Oblivion? It's nuts. The chorus is, like, probably in my top 20 choruses of all time. It's absolutely nuts. I've never heard anything like it ever. I love it. Uh, Other songs are cool too. I'm probably not gonna go into nearly as much detail into them because I don't listen to them as often. I'm not the hugest, well, biggest Mastodon fan like out there, but I still do like them. Ghost of Carlisle, like I like that. That's actually probably my third or fourth favorite. The Tsar is cool too. In general, some good songs. It just feels like really, I don't know, it feels like you're tripping off acid while listening to this whole thing. Like, but instead of seeing things weirdly, you're just hearing things weirdly, and I appreciate that. The Last Baron, I'm gonna talk about that now. I love that song. Um, like Tommy said, that is one of the shortest 13 minutes of my life when I first listened to that. I remember laying in the corner of my bed, all huddled up, and then just like, oh hey, final track of this album, and then like feels like a few moments later, oh that was the album. Damn, that was good. Yeah. Um. Overall, good album. I wanna. I don't know. It sounds like something someone would get high to and just have the most crazy time of their life while, tripping. I don't know how to describe it. I'm gonna shut up now. Mid A tier.
Um, Dawn is one of my favorite bands, and this is probably my second or third favorite by them. I love the experimentation so much, like all the stuff they did from like Remission to Crack the Sky. The opener, obviously Oblivion, is probably my favorite opener ever. It is beautiful, perfect song, great to start off the album. And I love Divinations. I love the intro, little banjo and the crazy picking and stuff. I love that song. Um, I think Crack the Sky is might be my least favorite on the album. Uh, like Aaron said, it's a little busy and stuff. I do agree with that. But The Czar is my favorite song on the album. I love it. I love the riffs. I love the parts. And it feels like 3 minutes to me. Obviously, it's so much longer. But I love this album. It's definitely not my favorite Dom. Also, The Last Baron is great outro track. I love it. I love the ending. I think it fits perfectly where it's at. But yeah, like I said, I love the vocals, all three of them. You got bronze vocals. I think they all sound great. But this is probably high A or low S for me. So
Okay, is this good for everyone where this placement is?
Sure.
sure.
Yep. That's actually probably exactly where I'd put it based off of the albums I've heard here.
Fat?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, cool.
Actually, no. If this was my own tier list, I'd have Blackwater Park higher, but that's not the point.
Anyway, next up we got. Okay, we got Dream Theater. And I bet
Oh, no.
I bet someone is very very excited to review this one. This is Metropolis Part 2 by Dream Theater, and I want to be 100% honest. This is the first Dream Theater album that I've listened to in full. I've heard a couple tracks, like I've heard Panic Attack, and I've heard a song off of Images and Words, but otherwise this is like the full, like one full album that I've heard by them, the only one. Um, and I'm just gonna go through every single thing that's on here. Scene one, I think this is very like therapeutic, like the spoken word, like trying to like tell you to relax or something. And I should probably like try listening to that when laying in bed and see if that has any effect on me, because I found that kind of interesting. Scene two, I think this has pretty nice riffs and leads. The synth kind of sounds in the first half, and then for some reason I think it sounds better in the second. Once it kind of does like its solo. Scene two, part two, it's got some decent sections, but overall, okay. Scene three, nice intro into scene. It's a nice intro into scene three, part two, which honestly, why make it a separate track? To be honest, I think, I don't know why. Now scene three, part two has a cool main riff. I wrote this song has an isolated drum section, and now that really like highlights the snare, and I kind of think the snare sounds kind of ass. But overall I think it's pretty good. Scene four, I love the intro. Guitar really shines on this track. Not really a big fan of the synth on this track, and the vocals are meh at moments. Not a fan of the trumpet inclusion either. And like the other instrumentation layers that they add in this track feels kind of out of place in my opinion. Scene five, this track reminds me of like singer-songwriter type stuff from the mid 2000s that I grew up with. Scene six, I enjoy like the Middle East sounding intro here. Pretty heavy riffs too. Overall, it might be my favorite off of this album. Scene seven, part one, cool instrumental. I like how this song kind of goes into like some type of like ragtime feel. Scene seven, part two, is alright. I don't have much to say about it. Scene Scene eight, I wrote, yeah, the lyrics kind of hit home for me, because if I remember correctly, that track talks about like death and the fear of dying, and that's something I went through this earlier this year. Scene nine, I like how it brings back like the therapist from the very first track, and overall the outro melody is cool. I feel like I would like this more if the keyboard was minimal and took like a chill pill for a second, and they had a better vocalist. I would probably put this in B tier. I'm gonna be honest, I am surprised that I enjoyed a good amount of it, because I don't really see a massive appeal to Dream Theater, because like other than like Panic Attack, like what I heard from like Images and Words, I'm not a big fan of. But yeah, that's all I have.
Okay, so you know how earlier I said there's gonna be an album that gets my unrelenting ire?
Yeah.
It's this one. This is the one that did the absolute biggest fall off for me from when I used to listen to it a lot to this most recent listen. I think the album's kind of boring. It's, I believe, the longest album of the bunch. It's like 80 minutes, and oh my god, you feel the 80 minutes. It is long as fuck compared to some of the other ones. Like, it drags for me. Some of the interlude tracks don't really do a whole lot for me. Like, I think, Overture and Strange Deja Vu could have probably been combined. Through My Words and Fatal Tragedy could have probably been combined. One Last Time. I guess they want to keep Dance of Eternity instrumental. That's cool. I respect that. But some tracks as well kind of don't really do much for me. Strange Deja Vu is just alright. The Spirit carries on, touching lyrics, but I think instrumentally it's just whatever. Beyond This Life doesn't do a whole lot for me outside of that really good opening riff. But for tracks I do like, I really like Fatal Tragedy. That's my favorite from here. It's just the instrumental outro, just all of it, right after, right as soon as that riff, like, from that on, really good. Home is another one I really like. The Middle Eastern feel is really sick. Finally Free is another one I really like as well. It's just got a cool like feeling to it, almost because I know in the story it's supposed to be like, oh, he's finally coming home back to this world. It has that feel to it. And then, even though it's not mentioned on here, I think the interlude or like the transition into 6 degrees of inner turbulence, the next album with the static, is really cool. That's about it. This is the one I said I would give a C tier to. This is just the length. It's the fucking length, man. It feels so long. I would give this a high C, or a low B.
Alrighty. I think this is definitely Dream Theater's proggiest work. It's very long. It's very complex. It's very unconventional. But I also think it's their most complete work. I don't like it as much as I like Octavarium, or as much as I like Train of Thought, or Systematic Chaos, or 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence, or really a bunch of their other albums, but I think as a whole product, it's easily their most complete, as one that very much you can tell that this was well crafted. The rock opera aspect of it is pretty dope. It's a very complete story. It has some very interesting elements. The main thing that drags this down for me is just a lot of unnecessary length. 80 minutes is kind of absurd. It's a really fun 80 minutes, but it is a long time for something that I think could be done in 20, 30 less minutes. Like, this could be an hour long. But, that being said, I think the concept that it does is still cool. I think there's a lot of good parts about it. High B tier.
I used to think I was kind of lonely and not being too huge on this album, but the more I kind of like peek around the internet and a bunch of all these other websites and social media things, the more I'm realizing that I'm not actually very lonely in thinking that this album is kind of just slightly above average. I'm gonna say what I think everyone else here has already said, 80 minutes. Yeah, man, I don't know if that's necessary. At that point, just make a movie. I don't know, I feel like I just get more genuine appeal out of this if they just actually made, like, some kind of movie about this instead of, like, some slightly above average, forgettable prog metal album. I don't even remember most of the track names off of this, thinking back on it. All I remember is that, like, the story was kind of cool in concept, and the album ended in, like, say at the end, wake up, something, and then it's just static for a while, and I'm like, oh, hey, that's cool. What was the rest of the album again? They could have done better if they just shortened this by a while, and I don't know. The music itself is fine. Make it shorter. Well, it's not fine. You get my point, I think. It's still good-ish, though. I'd put, like, mid to low B tier, maybe.
I love this album, and I do not like y'all's opinions, but I will say it is long, and I do think it could be like 55 minutes. But I like the concept. I think it's very complete. And I love scene 3. Again, I don't like how it's like split into 2 parts. I think it could just be one song, but you know, whatever. I think those are probably my favorite songs on here. The Spirit Carries On is one of those songs that I loved so much when I first heard it. I listened to it so many times. And now it's probably like one of the weakest for me on this album. But yeah, I think like the interludes and stuff could be like chopped down. I get like the effect for it. I just feel like it doesn't really need to be there. Scene 7, The Dance of Eternity. I love that song. The Crazy Time signature changes, I think it's great. Um, and I like that it transitions. I think that's good that it was split into two. But yeah, and I think Finally Free is a good outro. Again, I think it's very long, and James's vocals are definitely not the best. And considering this is Jordan's first keyboard performance with Dream Theater, I think it's very solid. And again, I think, yeah, I just think it's very long. I would probably put it middle A, but I don't think that's gonna happen. So yeah,
Okay. How are you guys thinking about middle B?
Valid.
yeah,
Yep.
valid.
That works.
Okay, cool. All right.
Yeah,
Next,
go with that.
next up we got. Yay! The one
Huzzah!
the next one I wanted to get to.
I'm out
Um,
of here for now.
Okay. This is Ocean Machine by Devin Townsend. I know this. I know this because. I know this album because I know someone that's a massive fan of Devin. Seventh Wave. I like the riff and the slow pacing of the song. Life. I really enjoy this song. The chorus is so catchy. The intro riffs are pretty good. And the whole song reminds me of like. The song reminds me of a pop punk song because of how happy it sounds a little. Night. This track reminds me of like like industrial with synth in the background with like a lo-fi effect. I enjoy the chorus of the song too. The riff is good. Hide Nowhere. I think it's just solid. Sister. It's a pretty nice acoustic track. 3 a.m. basically an intro for Voices. Voices in the Fan. I think Voices in the Fan is also pretty decent. Greetings. I like the atmosphere of the song. And then it goes directly into Regulator. Regulator, holy shit, awesome song, sick ass riff. The verses heavy and very catchy. This is like the one song off this album that reminds me of Strapping Young Lad, which is probably why I like it a lot. Funeral. This sounds like something I'd play in like a summer spa. That's the type of vibe I get from it. Bastard has a sick riff. I really like the layering of the instrumentals over the riff. Feels super big, and I think this one kind of drags around like the 8 minute mark, but still a good song. Death and Music. I think this is my least favorite track. It's chill, yeah, but I don't really think it needs to be 12 minutes long. Things Beyond Things, chill track overall. Besides like at the very end with Devin screaming, or it wasn't Devin screaming. I don't remember. Bonus notes. I love the production on this album, and I think this is my favorite Devin album that I've heard so far. Besides like Strapping Young Lad, I'd probably put this at high A, low S tier. That's all I have.
Yeah, really great album. I think Seventh Wave is an excellent opener, straight into Life, straight into Night. Those three, really great 3-track run. Then the middle tracks are good, which kind of leads into a point I have. My biggest issue with the album is that it starts phenomenally and ends phenomenally. And I think the middle tracks kind of suffer. Like, there's like Sister, Voices in the Fan, 3 a.m., stuff like that. Tracks I like but don't particularly love. And then starting from Regulator onwards, that track, that like 5-song run, really good. This particular shout out to Bastard, I really like that one. Death and Music, I think could have definitely been shortened, but the way that song just crescendos at the end is kind of beautiful. And then Think Beyond Things is just a really nice closing chill number with the funny Devin scream. Yeah, favorite tracks, Seventh Wave for sure. Life, I love how just happy that song sounds. Very uplifting. It's very nice. Night, like you mentioned, the synth I think adds a whole lot to that song. Then Bastard, Think Beyond Things. This is a very good album, production wise. Really great. I'm now like obligated to mention the fact that I think the snare is sampled from Ride the Lightning. I think it's like dead on like the same snare or like slightly edited or something like that. I read that somewhere like 3 years ago. Take that with a fat grain of salt, but Yeah, I pretty much agree. I would also go high A, low S.
Yeah, this album is fucking awesome, dude. Very unique. It's proggy. It's got a lot of good like alt metal ish parts. It's got some cool industrial parts. I think this album shines the most in how ridiculous, like the ridiculous kind of atmosphere it builds. There's some more like shoegazy, kind of ethereal sounding passages. Um, just the gobs of fucking reverb on everything. Um, this is really just a super fun album to immerse yourself in. It's not something you can break up into pieces. You really need to listen to the whole thing. Like turn the lights off in your room and just let it go. You need to really immerse yourself. Like you need to feel the atmosphere of this fucking album. Um, there are some awesome tracks here. Funeral is awesome. Hide Nowhere is awesome. Bastard is awesome. All just spectacular tracks. I think for the fact of this being Devin's first album as well is just a little bit ridiculous that he managed to come up with like this is the first thing he came up with. So it's like, damn, it's just mad impressive. It's a very unique album. It's something that you need to listen to really get a grasp for because there's nothing quite like it. Um, that's all I have. Very very high A tier, if not a low S tier. I'm thinking more of a high A tier though. Um, Definitely something that you have to listen to really get a grasp for though.
I love this album. I think it is very unique. I love the atmosphere. I love the atmospheric parts. I love Devin's little voice. His little like screams and stuff. I first heard him with Steve Vai because I'm a huge Vai fan, and I thought he was great. And I think this album, yeah, I love the opener, Seventh Wave. I think it is great. And my favorite song on here is either Seventh Wave, Regulator, or Bastard. I just think, and I think the riffs on this album, man, I just think they are amazing and so unique. And I love like the feel it gives. Like it doesn't make you feel like Opeth, like sad or whatever. It's almost more of a happy sounding album. But I love the atmosphere. Just it's just the atmosphere, just so amazing. I just love the feel. I love. I think the drums are really really good, but I wouldn't say it's probably like the opposite of a highlight on this album for me. Like it wasn't my favorite part. But again, I think this is like one of the greatest like atmospheres in an album anybody can achieve. It feels a lot shorter to me than the actual 70 minutes it is. But yeah, I love this album. I'd give it a low S or a high A.
Wow. All right. I'm going low S tier because all of us agree,
Yeah.
and that is awesome. Because yeah. Next up we just have four left. So here we go, and cool. We got the album that's gonna get talked for like 10 minutes now.
Mm.
This is Burial. This is Burial by Extol. Um, I think Into Another Dimension. It's a pretty interesting 1 minute track. I was not expecting like this type of sound. Sestival completion like black metal, bruh. Black metal, really? Really like the riffs on this song. I also really enjoy the lead harmonies on as well. The title track, the vocals kind of remind me of Mortification. This one slaps too. Some Norwegian title. It's very Melodeath inspired. It's epic, and I like how doomy it gets at the end. Superior, very Melodeath like too. Reflections of a Broken Soul. Goddamn, what an intro riff. One of my favorites from this. Justified, solid track, but probably one of my least favorites. Embraced, pretty good. I like the more intense parts in the song. Very black metal again. Another song title I can't pronounce. It's pretty solid as well, but not much to say about it. Tears of Bitterness, banger as well. I was hoping it would sound sad because of the title, but it didn't. Damn. Work of Art, Really enjoy the slow section of the song, Jesus Calm. I like the style of this track with the choir and the heavy instrumental. My bonus notes I had were that this album kind of caught me by surprise because I was not expecting like this type of sound. It's a great mixture of death metal, prog, and black metal. Really enjoyed the production, and I think if it was like a cleanly produced production album, I would not have enjoyed it as much as I did. So I'd probably put this in high A tier. That's all I have.
Oh, this is gonna be a fun one for me. This is the only album I have not heard of prior to the ranking. It's good. It is probably the one I have the least amount of a lot of things to say about it though. Reflections of a Broken Soul, To Your Bitterness, Work of Art. Those were great songs. I don't really have much else to comment on though. That's really about it. I would go like B tier, high B. It's like it's good, but it's not like my favorite. You know.
Yeah, this is cool. It was one that was new to me. It's nothing like super to write home about, but it's cool. It's an interesting mixture. It's very melodic, which I do like. I think my favorite part about all of it is all of the various key changes that kind of happen mid riff in some of the songs. That's always really cool when that happens. Not a ton of bands do that nowadays. It's something that's kind of lost in 90s prog and tech death that I think should happen more. All the key switches are super cool. The techie parts are cool. The black metal parts are cool. I really do like the more melodic riffs though the most. It's kind of meandering, kind of long. A couple standout moments, but nothing that really left my jaw on the floor other than I don't know how to say it. Renhetten's Elve. That's my best attempt at. But that song left my jaw on the fucking floor. The whole middle part of that is such a banger. But other than that, I don't have much to say. High B tier, pretty good.
All right, I'm gonna keep it quick. This is my favorite album of all time. Reflections of Broken Souls, probably my favorite song of all time. Literally amazing. I love the melodic parts. I love the riffs. It's almost perfect to me. I love Jesus Come to Jordan for there. It's the ending track. It's perfect to me. Yeah, it's high S tier for me. I don't really know what else to say.
Okay. Are we good for somewhere in A tier?
Mid A.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like good for you, BT?
yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. Fat had to dip, but apparently he's gonna message his takes. So we'll see. We'll see how this goes. Next up, we got Black Crown Initiative.
Alrighty.
I also did not listen to this.
Okay. Okay. So this is Violent Portraits of Doomed Escape. I think Invitation has a pretty fun riff. Going into this, wasn't expecting death metal, but that acoustic guitar, is that remind me of a certain band that rhymes with Gropeth? Son of War, solid. There's a riff at the end that reminds me of Tool. Trauma Bonds, solid. Not much else to say. Tears in Frigid Light, solid. Vocals kind of remind me of Unanimated. Bellow, top 5 Mongolian throat singing moments. Death Comes in Reverse. This one's alright too, not much grabbing me. Son of War, yeah, this one just screams Opeth, especially the first part of the song. Solid song overall. Holy Silence, pretty fun. I like hearing the clean vocals over the blast beats. I think that's interesting. Pretty solid riffs too. He Is the Path is an alright piano in Violent Ultra. Overall decent, has its moments, but not really something I would return to. I'd probably put this in somewhere in B tier. And Fat said, S tier, this thing is so damn good. Favorites are Invitation and Holy Silence. Bell is so silly, but it makes but it makes zero sense and ruins the flow. So that's his thoughts, and now it's Tommy's turn.
Okay, so, this is one that I haven't listened to in over a year or so. I only had one listen, but from what I remember, take it all with a grain of salt. It's good. It's modern prog death, done very well. It's my closest comparison is Rivers of Nile, not quite as inspired or quite as unique, but that's my closest comparison. Is kind of like Rivers of Nile. Or kind, you know what? They're more similar to like Alkaloid, which is another more modern prog death band. They're kind of like Alkaloid, or even a little bit like Fallujah. But they're pretty fun. I remember liking this album. Some very riffy band, very good vocalist. The song Trauma Bonds is one that I keep kind of in somewhat regular rotation. I really like that track. Or less me, more my friend that really likes it. But Trauma Bonds is one that I do remember liking a lot. I not much to say. Solid middle B tier. Something I need to revisit for sure.
This album, first time ever hearing of it. I liked it a lot. I think the riffs were amazing. I love the riff style. I thought it was really cool. I love the vocals too. The growls were like super amazing to me. One thing I was not a fan of is anytime it would do an acoustic track, I did not like the mixing of the acoustic guitar at all. Like I thought it sounded so like weird, like it didn't fit in the mix at all to me. But I feel like the whole like modern kind of style really isn't for me. But I think it is great. The production definitely was not my favorite. I did love the riffs, like I said, but I love the solos. Like anytime there would be a guitar solo, I thought it was amazing. And one thing I will say, I love the song structure on this album. But that's really all I have. I'd give it high A or low S.
Okay. Tommy said B, and I'd also put it in B. And you said high A, so I think putting it above Blackwater Park would.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's valid.
All right.
That's valid.
These next two, I'm not gonna do a random thing. I'm just gonna go in order. So next we have the Fragile Art of Existence by Control Denied. Consumed. I love the atmospheric intro. Fucking amazing melodic riffs throughout. Breaking the Broken might be my favorite off of it. I think the riff is heavy as hell. Also love the solo on the song. Expect the Unexpected. I always thought the intro riff was weird but awesome. I enjoy the rhythm of the riff underneath the solo around the 2-minute and 40 mark. What If is a good track. When the Link Becomes Missing has a fire solo. Believe. I love the chorus on that song. Cut Down. Probably my least favorite, but not bad at all. I really like the spacey solo. Title track, fucking fantastic. Sick riffs, and the part of the chorus where it takes a break and the guitar plays like several like delayed licks and like is broken up by like a drum hit and then a power chord hit. I think it's really cool. Same production, bonus notes. This has this like pretty much the same production as The Sound of Perseverance. A shame Chuck didn't make another one, and I don't really get the hate that the vocalist gets. I'd probably put this edging S tier. That's all I have. And
He did what to S tier?
shut up. And I have to read Fats now. He says low B tier, not super memorable in my opinion. Consumed and When the Link Becomes Missing are bangers though. So it's Tommy's turn.
Valid take. With Sound of Perseverance existing, it's a little bit obsolete in my opinion. I think the kind of more power metal elements to it are an interesting take, an interesting direction, and a good listen for one time only. But I don't know. Beyond that, it doesn't serve much utility. I do think it's kind of like it's got some kind of like tech thrash riffing in there, which I do like. That is one sort of difference from Sound of Perseverance. But for Chuck Schuldner's last project, I think it's good. I really think it's a good album. A solid A tier album, I would say, because there are some really, really good songs on this. Consumed is great. Breaking the Broken is great. Expect the Unexpected is great. Fragile Art of Existence is great. So overall, I'd say a low A tier, but not something to like be revisited all the time or anything.
You know, I like this album, honestly. Kind of a disappointing like ending to Chuck's legacy, but I still did enjoy this. Consumed is absolute banger of a song. That song is like forever imprinted into my memory. What If is also a great song. I like that one riff. That's like it reminds me of Out of Touch from Individual Thought Patterns for some reason. A Link Becomes Missing, also really good song. Love the riffs in that song. Fragile Art of Existence is also a just really good emotional song to me. Just really cool way to end off Chuck's legacy. Um, that's mostly it. It has this like cool-ish atmosphere to it too, and some really cool directions. I can tell that Chuck kind of like just thinking back on his like old power metal inspirations from his older albums, because I remember reading something similar how Chuck was a big fan of power metal in his Symbolic era, so tried to take some inspiration from that. And he must have like kind of gone back into his power metal phase when he was listening to this too, and kind of tried to integrate some of that in here, which I also appreciate because I'm a big power metal fan. Yeah, good album. I'd say this is like high A tier.
I love this album a lot. I think this is peak riffing with Chuck. I don't have much to say, but I love the bass. I love the drums, and I don't think there's like that many weak tracks, but I do not like the production that much. And the vocals definitely aren't my favorite, but I'd say low S, high A. Again, I think that all the tracks are solid, but it's really all I got.
Okay. How are you guys feeling with this position right here? Or maybe.
Solid.
Yeah.
I'd say below AL.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd say below.
Alright. We have come to the final album. Which is Still Life, but Opeth. So, this is probably the longest review that I've written compared to everything else. So, prepare for a yap session. This track has finally clicked with me. I finally get the hype for this. Has a cool, like, beautiful intro that goes into, like, a neat acoustic section that goes right into, like, a groovy riff. There's a lot that goes into this song, so I'm not gonna say every detail. I think the song is great overall. I said it was not a favorite of mine, but I finally got the hype for it. Very cool riff around the 7 minutes and 10 seconds mark. The song goes by pretty fast in my opinion. Nice melody at the 9 minutes and 10 second mark. I really enjoy the ending to the song as well. Godhead's Lame in It. I've never been a massive fan of this song, I'm gonna be honest. I think there are some cool moments here, like around the 4 minute mark with the clean vocals and the acoustic section. The riff around the 8 minute mark is neat. Yeah, I'm still not a massive fan of this one. Feels like it's going off somewhere and getting lost. Benighted is very beautiful. Really enjoy the vocal melody by Michael on this track. Can't help but hum the melody, to be honest. Moonlapse Eclipse. What makes this song for me is the riff at the 2 minutes and 40 seconds mark. Like, goddamn, so sick. The rest of the song is overall enjoyable. Face of Meledia or whatever. I can't listen to the song without thinking of. I can't listen to the song without thinking of Tommy being disappointed because it wasn't an all acoustic track. I like the song. Very chill, and then it slaps you in the face in the second half. Also love the riff. Just the riffs in the second half. Serenity Painted Death, hands down, I think this is the best song off the album for me. It's like a top 5 Opeth song. Really love the melody at 50 seconds and the riff at the 1 minute and 30-second mark. It's fucking awesome. The song keeps my attention the entire time. I do think it's weird how like this song just like cuts out and ends though. That's like my only gripe with it. White Cluster, the song has kind of grew on me. I like the riffs and the acoustic as well. I enjoy the chorus a lot more than I used to. It is probably still my least, second to least favorite off of the album though. Bonus notes, great production, and I kind of think that the bass drum gets kind of buried in the mix, when there's a double bass section. Sick guitar tone as well. Overall, very good album, but I'm not like a massive circle jerker for this album. I think it's good, but I don't think it's like an 11 out of 10 good, and it's not even my favorite Opeth album. But that being said, though, it still goes in A tier for me. And that's all I have. Now I have to read Fat. Still Life, high A, low S tier. The More and Serenity Painted Death are amazing, but it drags.
Alrighty. I'm gonna ruin someone's day. This album is not bad, but I have many gripes with it, and it's one of the most disappointing albums I think I've ever listened to, just because it could have been a 10. This is an album with so much potential and so much going for it, and every time there's something big going for it, it get like all of the momentum that's being carried gets run over by a fucking 20-ton semi. So, The More is a slow song. It's a song that kind of goes nowhere. It meanders around. It's 11 minutes long. It's whatever. Good vocal performances on it, good riffing on it, but it's just far too long. Not a big More guy. Godhead's Lament is a good song. I like Godhead's Lament. A lot of momentum is being built in Godhead's Lament. And then Benighted is just a beautiful song. Benighted is, in my opinion, Opeth's best song, period. Absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Just an excellent composition. It's Opeth's like bread and butter, in my opinion, is those acoustic songs. I think Benighted is the best of them. And then Mood Lab's Vertigo is just boring. I'm sorry. Like, it kills all of that momentum coming from Godhead's Lament and Benighted. And then into Face of Melinda, and the first half of Face of Melinda is awesome. And then it should have just kept going, honestly. The second half is fine, but it's a horrible cutoff, and it's so much whiplash, in my opinion. And then Serenity Painted Death and White Cluster both have a lot of good ideas, but in my opinion are just too long for what they are. So it's... The concept in the album is good. It's a decent concept album. I'll give it that. I'll give it great performances, great riffs. The folk elements are the best parts, in my opinion. But for as an album that has some of the best moments of Opeth's career on it, it's all just kind of ruined by poor decisions to me. I mean, Benighted is like a top 100 song all time for me, but the album overall is just ruined by strange choices to me. I will give it a high C tier. A very, very high C tier, but a high C tier nonetheless.
You ruined my day, Tommy. I love this album, like, goddamn. This is the second album, well, one of the two, the other being Sound of Perseverance. Yeah, I'd give this album a very, very light 10 out of 10. This used to be my favorite Opeth album. It's still like my third, maybe second favorite. Okay, I'm kind of gonna lightly go through the tracks here. More is odd. I usually skip the first like minute and a half if I'm just listening to the song individually, but whenever I listen to it in full, I always listen to the like little minute and a half, like no, like 2 and something minutes of the just pretty little intro, then going into the big old metal stuff that just gets my heart pounding and makes me want to like throw a baby into a wall. Yeah, that's just a great song. Then it has those like really pretty moments. I actually used to get kind of scared when the like a little acoustic parts turned into the metal parts. Like I kind of jump. I don't anymore because I fully like I can like probably just describe the song start from finish if you gave me enough time and mental space. But yeah, enough of that. Next is Moonlapse Vertigo. No, Godhead's Lament. Sometimes get those songs mixed up. Godhead's Lament, probably my least favorite off the album, but it's still really good. Has some really cool riff moments and is just heavy and just kind of feels like something you want to schmooze to. United, God, beautiful song. Mwah. It's just nice. There's something really cool to chill to. Has this really cool little clean riff, like in the final quarter, I think. Moonlapse Vertigo has like a really cool intro that reminds me of like a mafia crime scene for some reason. Then the rest of the song also is just great. Face of Melinda, it's overrated as hell, but I still love it a lot. That one riff when it goes into the little metal part is amazing. Probably top 3 riffs off the album. Serenity Painted Death, also a great song. I don't know how to describe it. It's just like heavy and cool with some really nice riffs, and the chorus is also really cool. It just makes you want to like slightly bang your head. The Cluster is underrated as hell. It has, I don't know where it is in the song, but it has this one really cool riff that's in like my top 5 Opeth riffs. That just reminds me of like a cowboy just riding down a plane, getting chased by like some, I don't know, something. It reminds me of like Wild West stuff. Really cool. Great concept album too. I have very little complaints about this album. I don't even think it drags, actually. I don't know where Fat pulled that out of his ass. This does not drag one bit. Um, I like this. I would give this high S, like, I'd say just below Sound of Perseverance.
First time I heard this album, I did not like it at all. But after re-listening, this is second favorite Opeth. This album's amazing. I think The More is a little overrated for me. I think it's alright. But Godheads is so good. Oh my gosh. I love that song. I love all the folky parts of this album. I love the production, love the vocals, I love the songwriting. I feel like they've done better, which I feel like a lot of these songs, because of the songwriting, are just good and not like great. But I think that's like the only complaint I really have with this album. Just not everything's really great. Some things are just good, or just like kind of good. You know. I think I love the concept, and yeah, I'd say low S for me.
Alright, so to compensate for Tommy because he has this in high C tier, I think it would only be fair to have this at the very butt end of A, if everyone's fine with that.
Yeah, and Fat had it in B too, I think, so.
Hmm?
Yeah, yeah, it's alright.
Wait, you said B tier?
Fat had it in B.
No.
No, Fat had it in
Oh, I thought.
low SA tier.
Oh.
Alright, yeah, put it at
Oh, I
3
was
in A then.
Okay. And there we
I'm-
have it.
I'm
That
okay with
is
that.
all 20 of the Prog albums, and I want to be honest. It was not that massive a slug to get through. I found some pretty great music through this. And I obviously have my own issues with some of these placements, but overall I think this is a solid tier list. And thank you guys for being here to do this with me.
Swaggy.
Yep.
Of course.
All right, that's the end of the video. Bye.